AITA for canceling my wedding after my fiancée gave our savings to her ex for a gaming PC. I'm 29 years old, and I had been with my fiancée, Madison, who is 27, for 3 years. I thought we were solid. We got engaged last October and started planning the wedding for the upcoming spring. The usual stuff. We opened a joint savings account for wedding expenses. The plan was for me to put in most of the money since I earned more, and she would contribute what she could. It turned out that what she could was about 10%, while I covered the other 90%. Every month, I made my deposit on time. Madison's contributions were sporadic at best. Some months she would put in $50, other months, nothing. She always had an excuse ready: car trouble, a vet emergency for her sister's cat, and so on. I didn't make a big deal about it. Besides, her father insisted on contributing to the wedding costs. The savings account was supposed to be for the honeymoon and other expenses. Madison wanted Greece, a 5-star, all-inclusive resort. Over 8 months, I managed to put about $9,000 into that account. Madison contributed maybe $800 in total during that whole time. Relationships are about teamwork, right? Sometimes one person carries more of the weight. I figured it would eventually even out. The wedding was scheduled for early April. Everything was planned. Her dad had put a lot of money into the venue and had already paid deposits everywhere. My parents were handling the rehearsal dinner. All I had to do was keep saving for the honeymoon and show up in a suit. Then, mid-February arrived. I was checking the savings account to see if we could upgrade the resort in Greece, maybe get a room with an ocean view instead of a garden view. I logged into the app during my lunch break, glanced at the balance, and my stomach dropped. 47 cents. I just stared at my phone screen, trying to make sense of it. It had to be a mistake. Some kind of bank glitch. I closed the app and opened it again. Still zero. I refreshed the page 3 more times as if that could change reality. Nothing. My hands started to shake. I checked the transaction history, scrolling through months of deposits. All my contributions were there in a neat list. Then, one withdrawal. February 12th, exactly 2 days ago, $9,000 transferred to an external account I didn't recognize, just some random account number that meant nothing to me. The transfer description just said, personal, nothing else. I called Madison. Voicemail. I texted her. Nothing. I tried again. Nothing. I was having lunch with my friend Ethan, and he saw my face and asked what was wrong. Someone emptied our wedding account, I told him. How? Fraud. I don't know. The transaction shows it was authorized by an account holder. Maybe Madison could have just moved the money somewhere safer without telling me. Ethan winced. Call the bank. I did. They confirmed the transfer was legitimate, authorized by Madison 2 days prior with all the correct verification. The money was gone. I left work early and drove home. Madison wasn't there. I checked her location on Find My, something we had set up for safety. She was at some restaurant across town I'd never heard of, apparently having a late lunch. I sat on the couch and waited. She got home around 6, waltzing in and singing some happy song like nothing was wrong. She saw me sitting there with the laptop open, and her smile vanished. Hey, you're home early, she said. We need to talk. About what? About the $9,000 that disappeared from our account. Her face went completely white, then red. Then she immediately got defensive, which told me everything I needed to know. I can explain. You'd better. She sat on the edge of the armchair, avoiding my eyes, and started talking fast, way too fast, like she had rehearsed the whole speech. Her friend Jenna was apparently going through a crisis. Jenna's mom had been diagnosed with cancer. Stage 3. The treatment was expensive, and insurance didn't cover everything. Jenna was drowning in medical bills and couldn't afford the chemo copays. Madison painted herself as some kind of hero. She made it sound like she had literally saved a life. I asked if she had given my money to Jenna. She called it a loan. She said Jenna would pay it back. $9,000 for cancer treatment. But she did it without asking me because she knew I would say no. And she was right about that. I would have said no. We had a wedding in 2 months, and that money was for our future. She tried to use the dying mother argument. What was I supposed to do? Just let her mother's health decline. Not taking money from our joint account would have been a good start. Then she stood up, all defensive, arms crossed over her chest like she was the victim. She started saying it wasn't stealing because the account was hers too, that she wasn't going to let her friend's mom suffer when she had a chance to help. Pure savior complex energy. I asked to see the loan agreement, the terms, the repayment plan, the interest rate, all the legal stuff that makes something a real loan and not a gift. She looked at me like I'd asked her to produce a unicorn. She said they had a verbal agreement, that Jenna knew she owed her the money. Nothing in writing, all based on trust. That actually made me laugh. I couldn't help it. Trust, coming from someone who had just taken $9,000 without a word. She accused me of being cruel. She said this was about someone's life. I pointed out that it was actually about her making massive financial decisions behind my back, decisions that affected both of us, with money that I earned. She tried to turn it around, making it about me throwing my salary in her face. So I laid out the math for her. She had contributed less than 10% to that account over 8 months. The rest was mine. That meant she had just handed my money to her friend for a made-up emergency I had never once heard about. She went quiet. She had no response to the basic facts. I asked when Jenna's mom was diagnosed. A few weeks ago, apparently. Funny how she hadn't mentioned it once in those weeks. She hadn't seemed stressed. She hadn't been crying or worried or asking anyone for help. She just went behind my back and took the money. She said it was because she knew I would react like this, like someone who just got robbed. Yeah, she was right about that, too. I grabbed my keys and left. I went to Ethan's apartment and told him the whole story. He listened, looking more and more skeptical. Something's not right, Ethan said. I told him I agreed, because if her friend's mom really had cancer and needed help, Madison would have been talking about it nonstop. She would have been stressed, crying, asking everyone for help. Instead, she had been normal this whole time, even happy. So you think she's lying? I think I need to do some digging. I stayed at Ethan's that night and told Madison I needed space. She replied with entire paragraphs about how I was being insensitive and cruel, how I didn't understand what it meant to be there for people in a crisis, and how disappointed she was in my lack of compassion. The next morning, I went back to the apartment while Madison was at work. I needed answers. I needed to know if this Jenna story was even real. I started going through her things. I'm not proud of it, but I wasn't going to let this go without knowing the truth. I found her laptop in the bedroom, still logged into Facebook. I opened her messages, looking for conversations with Jenna. I figured if this medical emergency was real, there would be proof. Messages about planning, worry, treatment updates, something. I found nothing. No recent messages with anyone named Jenna. I scrolled back weeks. Nothing about cancer, medical bills, or emergencies. Then I saw messages at the top of her inbox. Someone named Cole. Messages from 2 days ago, right after the money was transferred. I clicked. My stomach dropped for the second time in 2 days. They had been talking for 4 months. For full months of daily conversations. Good morning texts, good night texts, random memes, inside jokes, the whole relationship playbook. I scrolled through weeks of messages, trying to understand what I was seeing. Cole talking about his life, problems at his job, his dating struggles, his childhood traumas. Madison playing therapist, cheerleader, and girlfriend all in one. Lots of "you deserve better. You'll get through this. I believe in you." Then I found the message from 3 weeks ago. Cole mentioned wanting a gaming PC, but not being able to afford it. He said a friend had an amazing setup and he was jealous. He wished he could afford something like it, but money was tight. Her reply came 2 hours later. Let me see what I can do. I kept reading. I found the message from February 10th, 2 days before she took the money. Cole had sent her a link to a gaming PC build. All the specs laid out. The total cost was around $7,000. That was just for the tower, plus monitors, a desk, a chair, and accessories. The whole setup was around $8,500. Her reply, I'm going to buy you that setup. You need something good in your life right now. You've been through so much, and you deserve it. His reply, are you serious? That's incredible. I don't know what to say. You're amazing, Madison. You're seriously the best person I know. Her reply, anything for you. I mean it. I just sat there staring at the screen, feeling my blood pressure rise. She had lied straight to my face. She made up an entire story about Jenna's mom having cancer, using pity and guilt to justify taking money from me. All to buy her ex-boyfriend a gaming computer, because that's who Cole was. I kept reading and found references to their past. They were college sweethearts who had dated for 2 years. He was apparently her first serious relationship, the one that got away, and she had been reconnecting with him for months while planning a wedding with me. I found the moment she sent him the money. A Venmo transfer for $9,000. His reply was 3 heart emojis and, "I don't know what I did to deserve you, but I'm so grateful you're in my life." Then came the messages after he got the money. Pictures of boxes arriving, computer parts spread across the floor, him building the rig, the final product lit up with RGB lights, the gaming chair, the desk, the monitors, all funded with my money. And Madison, loving all of it, telling him how happy she was for him, how proud she was, how much he deserved it. Then I found the message that made me want to explode. Cole wrote, "When can I see you again? I feel like it's been forever since we hung out. Want to come over and see the setup in person?" Her reply came a short while later. "Things are complicated right now, but we'll figure it out. I promise." Things are complicated. Meaning me. I was the complication standing between her and the fantasy she was building with this guy. I took screenshots of everything, every single important message. I sent them to myself. Then I called my cousin Graham, who's in contract law. "I need legal advice," I told him. I explained the situation, the missing money, the lies, the ex-boyfriend, everything. Graham listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. "A joint account means she technically had authorization. But wait, you said she told you it was for medical expenses? That she made up a whole story about her friend's mom having cancer?" Graham went quiet again. I could hear him thinking, that changes everything. That's fraud. Look, it's not my specialty, but I know a guy who handles these kinds of cases. Civil litigation. He's good. Let me make some calls. 2 days later, I was sitting in a lawyer's office downtown. His name was Mitchell. Graham had already sent him everything. Mitchell explained the situation. The cancer lie was the key. She deliberately misled me to prevent me from stopping the transfer. That's textbook fraud, plus misappropriation of my contributions and unjust enrichment since she gave it to a third party. We can go after Cole. He arguably received funds he should have known were not freely given. The messages show she told him she would see what she could do, implying it wasn't her money to give. We can include him for unjust enrichment and force him to return the value of everything that was purchased. Something shifted in my chest. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about getting back what was mine. What do I need to do? Give me every screenshot, every bank statement, every text message. We'll file the suit in civil court this week. Small claims court won't cover this amount. We'll sue them both, Madison for fraud and misappropriation, and Cole for unjust enrichment. They either settle, or we take it to trial. How long does this take? Realistically, 4 to 6 months minimum. If they decide to fight, it could be 8 or more. It depends on their lawyers and the court schedule. Discovery alone takes time, but with your evidence, you have a strong case. That night, I sent everything to Mitchell, every screenshot, every transaction record, every message thread. He compiled it into a formal legal demand letter, which was sent a week later via certified mail to both Madison and Cole. Madison showed up at the apartment 2 days after getting served. She didn't knock. She just used her key and walked in like she owned the place. I was on the couch working from home when she stormed into the living room. "You're suing me?" she said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement, like I'd committed some unforgivable crime. I closed my laptop and looked at her. "Hi, Madison. Nice to see you. Are you insane? You can't sue me. I already did. The papers have been served. You should have gotten them." Her face turned red. "We're engaged. You can't sue your fiancé. Ex-fiancé. And it turns out, I can. It's called fraud. This is crazy. I made one mistake, and you're trying to destroy my life." I laughed. I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. One mistake? Madison, you've been texting your ex for 4 months. You took everything we had saved. You invented a cancer patient. You planned on continuing to lie. That's not a mistake. It's a pattern. I didn't steal anything. It was a joint account. A joint account that I funded. You gave my money to your ex to buy a gaming rig. Do you want to argue semantics? She crossed her arms, getting into that defensive stance she always used when she knew she was wrong, but refused to admit it. Cole needed help. He was going through a hard time. I was being a good person. I get it completely. You wanted to impress your ex, play the hero. Make him think you're amazing and generous. Use my money to fund your little fantasy. And when you got caught, you came up with the most disgusting lie you could think of to make me feel guilty for questioning you. It wasn't like that. Oh no? Because I have screenshots that say otherwise. Do you want me to read them out loud? I have them memorized. Anything for you. You deserve this. When can I see you again? Should I go on? Her face went white, then red again, anger replacing the shock. You went through my private messages? That's an invasion of my privacy. This is what's going to happen, I said calmly. You're going to walk out that door. You're going to find somewhere else to stay. Maybe Cole has room. Then, you're going to get a lawyer. Fight the lawsuit if you want, but you're going to lose. Mitchell already told me we have a solid case. This is my apartment too. My name is on the lease. No, it's not. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again. You told me it was on the lease. I told you that you could stay here. I never put your name on the paperwork. But you've lived here long enough to be considered a legal tenant, which means I have to give you formal notice. 30 days. You have 1 month to figure out where you're going to live. You're kicking me out. The official eviction notice is already drafted. You can leave now and make it easy, or you can stay and make it complicated. Your choice. Then she started crying. Real tears, the kind she used to use when she wanted me to give in. How can you be so cruel? Cole was depressed. He needed this. Then she started begging me to drop the lawsuit. I told her she was going to stand in front of a judge and explain why she committed fraud, that she was going to have a judgment on her record, that she was going to learn that actions have consequences. Are you enjoying this? She yelled. You need to punish me. She wiped her face, mascara smeared everywhere. She looked around the apartment like she was seeing it for the first time or the last. She asked where she was supposed to go. I told her that wasn't my problem. I suggested she call Cole, or maybe her parents. That's when her face went completely white. She asked if her dad knew. I confirmed that he knew everything. Every screenshot, every text, every lie. I told her that during our conversation that week, he had used several unflattering terms to describe her. Oh, and he had canceled the wedding. Venue, catering, DJ, flowers. All canceled. Her legs literally buckled. She grabbed the back of the sofa to keep from falling. She started saying something about how I had ruined her life. I told her she had 30 days, but I strongly recommended she start packing today. She tried the pity approach. She said she needed time, that she had nowhere to go. I shrugged. The legal notice will arrive by the end of the week. The clock starts then. You can use that time however you want. She stood there for a few more seconds, just staring at me, probably waiting for me to break. I didn't. She walked into the bedroom. I heard shuffling, drawers opening. Then she came out with her purse, paused at the door, and told me I was going to regret this. She walked out and slammed the door so hard the frame shook. I heard her footsteps fading toward the elevator. I sat back down on the couch, took out my phone, and texted Mitchell that she had been notified and was aware of the lawsuit, that she had threatened to fight but seemed shaken. He replied a few minutes later. Good. Let her get a lawyer. The discovery process will take time, but we have the evidence. I went and got some water. I put on a video game. It was the first moment of peace I'd had in weeks. Life was starting to look up. Cole's response came through Mitchell 2 weeks later. His lawyer sent a letter. Cole denied everything. He claimed the money was a gift and that he had no obligation to return it. He asserted that Madison had told him it was her money to give. They were going to fight. Mitchell called me. Cole's playing hardball. His lawyers are arguing the gift exception. They're saying Cole had no reason to believe the money wasn't freely given. How much is this going to drag things out? Months. Maybe 6 to 8 before we see a courtroom. We'll have to do depositions, discovery, the whole process. And he's hired a decent lawyer. And Madison? She lawyered up too, a different firm. They're coordinating their defenses. This isn't going to be quick. Great, exactly what I wanted. Months of legal battles while my money was still gone. Madison tried to get me to drop the suit. She showed up at my work 2 weeks later. Security wouldn't let her up to my floor, but she waited in the lobby. I had to have her escorted from the building. After that, she started sending long emails, explaining her side, begging me to understand, and promising to pay me back herself if I would just drop the lawsuit. I forwarded every email to Mitchell, and he added them to the case file. Proof of acknowledgement of guilt. The legal process moved at a snail's pace. Discovery took 3 months. Depositions, requests for documents, back and forth between lawyers. Cole's lawyer kept filing motions to have the case dismissed. Mitchell shot them all down, but it ate up time. Madison's lawyer tried a different tactic. She claimed emotional distress, Said Madison had made a mistake under the pressure of a friend's crisis. She tried to paint me as vindictive. Mitchell countered with the fake cancer story and the messages proving premeditation. 5 months in, Cole finally broke. His lawyer called Mitchell. Cole wanted to settle. He would return what he could and set up payments for the rest. The legal fees were killing him, and his own lawyer told him straight up that he would probably lose at trial. Cole agreed to return the PC equipment he still had. He signed a payment agreement for the cash portion he had already spent, about $4,000. Mitchell structured it with penalties if he fell behind. $500 a month until the debt was clear. The PC parts were sold for about $5,000 to a local gaming store. Less than retail, but I wasn't going to wait for the perfect buyer. Madison kept fighting for another 2 months after Cole settled. Her lawyer tried to argue that the joint account meant she had equal rights to the funds. Mitchell crushed them with evidence showing my contribution percentage and her documented fraud regarding the supposed medical emergency. Then, Madison's lawyer dropped her a week before the hearing. Apparently, there was a conflict over unpaid fees. She was left high and dry. She showed up in court alone, with no lawyer. She looked terrified. The judge read the case summary, looked at Madison, and asked if she had any defense to present. She tried to explain that she was helping someone in need. The judge cut her off and asked if there was actually a cancer patient involved. She admitted there wasn't. The judge's face hardened. So, you fabricated a medical emergency to justify withdrawing funds from a joint account that was majority funded by the plaintiff, and then transferred those funds to a third party for the purchase of personal electronics. Is that correct? I didn't think of it that way. I'm sure you didn't. Ruling in favor of the plaintiff. Full amount plus court costs and interest. You have 90 days to pay, or we will begin garnishing your wages. Madison started crying right there in the courtroom. The judge didn't care. He banged the gavel. Case closed. I walked out of the courthouse feeling lighter than I had in 7 months. The whole process, from filing to judgment, had taken almost 8 months in total. I got most of my money back within the 90 days through a combination of Madison's payment and the return of Cole's equipment. Madison had to borrow the money from her parents to cover her share. Her dad, Douglas, called me afterward and told me he made her sign a promissory note for the loan. She would be paying him back for years. Between the settlement with Cole, the sale of the PC equipment, and Madison's forced payment, I recovered about $15,000 in total, if you factored in the ring I sold later. It wasn't quite the full amount after legal fees, but it was close enough. I opened a new savings account, one in my name only. A few weeks after the judgment, I was heading into my apartment with Ethan, who had come with me because he said he wanted to pick something up he'd left there. And sure enough, Madison was outside waiting. She had moved out weeks earlier during the 30-day notice period. She had been staying with a friend but had been sending texts asking to talk. I had ignored them all. She looked like she had been crying for hours. Mascara running everywhere, red and puffy eyes. The whole wounded bird act. My dad canceled everything, and he's disowning me, she said. I know. You ruined my life. No, you ruined your own life. I just stopped covering for you. She stood up and started pacing. Here it comes, the apology tour. Look, I'm sorry. Okay, I made a mistake. One mistake. And you're acting like I committed a crime. I was just trying to help someone who needed it. I almost laughed. Even then, even after everything, still playing the hero card. I didn't have an inappropriate relationship with Cole. He is just a friend who was going through things. I was being supportive. That's what good people do. They help others. Maybe you should try it sometime. Unbelievable. She was actually trying to guilt-trip me after taking our wedding fund and inventing a fake cancer patient. The audacity was almost impressive. I love you. I made a mistake, but I love you. We can fix this. I'll pay you back. I'll cut Cole off completely. Please, don't throw away 3 years over this. I want my ring back, I said. Her hand immediately went to her neck. She had taken it off her finger and was wearing it on a necklace like some kind of trophy. No, she said. It's mine. You gave it to me. That makes it mine. I'm keeping it. That ring was conditional on us getting married. Since you decided to fund your ex's gaming career instead of our future, the engagement is off. The ring comes back to me. I earned that ring. 3 years of my life. I'm not giving it back just because you're throwing a tantrum. I earned it. As if our relationship was a job she clocked in and out of. as if putting up with me for 3 years entitled her to a $4,000 consolation prize. "You have one chance to do this the easy way," I said calmly. "Give me the ring, and we both walk away clean. You'll never get it. Come and take it from me." And then she actually did it. She unclasped the necklace, held the ring between her fingers, and looked me dead in the eye with a smug little smirk, like she had just won something. She popped it in her mouth, threatening to swallow it. But the ring was too big. It got accidentally lodged in her throat. Her eyes went wide, her hands flew to her neck, and she started making these awful, gagging sounds. Her face went from red to purple. She was literally choking on her own spite. Ethan whispered, "This is wild." But I was genuinely shocked by her level of recklessness. I was really about to watch my ex-fiancée choke on her own engagement ring just because she was too proud to hand it over. She stumbled toward me, making frantic gestures at her throat. The universal sign for choking. Eyes watering, total panic. The same woman who, 30 seconds earlier, was telling me I owed her something. I got behind her and performed the Heimlich maneuver, something I learned in a work safety course years ago and never thought I would actually use. First thrust, nothing. Second thrust, nothing. She was making these gruesome, horror movie choking sounds. On the third thrust, the ring shot out like a cork from a champagne bottle. It hit the wall with a dry little ping. Madison collapsed to the floor, coughing and sputtering. On all fours, drool hanging from her mouth in long strings. Very dignified, really showing that I earned this ring energy. Then, she tried to scramble for the ring while she still couldn't properly breathe. Ethan reacted like an Olympic sprinter. He launched himself across the room, sliding on his knees like he was stealing a base in baseball, and got to the ring half a second before Madison's outstretched hand. He scooped it up and held it over his head like a championship trophy. "Got it." Madison was still on the floor, gasping for air. Ethan tossed me the ring. I wiped it on my t-shirt and examined it. It seemed fine, a little scratch from her teeth maybe, definitely covered in saliva, but structurally sound. I pocketed it. "Thanks for the show," I said. Very mature. "You're horrible," she gasped between coughs. "I could have been seriously injured. You could have just given me the ring like an adult. This is not okay. You crossed a line." That's when I laughed. I couldn't help it. I just helped you. You tried to take my ring by force. I'm the one who crossed a line. Got it. Makes perfect sense. Ethan was still on the floor, grinning. I've never seen someone choke on their own bad decisions before. That was beautiful. Madison had to borrow money from her parents to pay me. I later heard from a mutual friend that her dad, Douglas, made her sign a promissory note for every cent. He turned his own daughter into a debtor. She would be paying him back for years at whatever interest rate he decided. Probably a high one. Douglas didn't seem like the forgiving type after what she had done. All in all, between Cole's payments, the sale of the PC equipment, Madison's court-ordered payment, and selling the ring, I ended up getting back about $15,000. I didn't exactly come out ahead after legal fees, but I got back almost everything that was mine. I opened a new savings account in my name only. Watching that balance grow, without worrying it was going to disappear, felt amazing. I got back into the gym, something I had let slide during wedding planning. I got back into a 5-day-a-week routine. It felt good to focus on myself for once instead of funding someone else's fantasy life. I lost 15 pounds, gained muscle, and cleared my head. I moved into a better apartment 6 weeks later. A 1-bedroom, top-floor unit. Just me, a view, and some peace and quiet. No drama, no lies, no joint accounts. Just my space, my stuff, and my money. I set it up exactly how I wanted. Gaming setup in the living room, a nice TV, a comfortable couch, all the things I had put off because Madison wanted to save for the wedding. Meanwhile, Madison's life fell apart in ways I couldn't have written better if I tried. Cole apparently lost his mind when he found out Madison had been engaged the whole time. He blew up her phone. She tried to explain it away. She said we weren't really together anymore, that it was complicated, that she was going to tell him eventually. He didn't buy any of it. He called her every name in the book, told her to never contact him again, and blocked her on everything. Her family was done with her, too. Douglas cut her off financially after she paid the lawsuit money. He said she was on her own, that she needed to learn responsibility. Her mom sided with Douglas. She said what Madison had done was unforgivable. Taking the money was one thing, but lying about a serious illness crossed a line they couldn't ignore. They still spoke to her, but the relationship was ice cold. No family dinners, no help with rent, nothing. Madison had to move in with roommates, 3 people in a 2-bedroom apartment. She went from planning a wedding to sleeping on a pull-out couch in someone's living room. Her Instagram went from engagement photos and wedding plans to total silence. She stopped posting completely. Even Jenna dropped her as a friend, the same Jenna whose mom supposedly had cancer. Turns out, Jenna found out Madison had been using her name to cover up the situation. She did not appreciate being made the daughter of a fake patient. She cut all contact with Madison and told their mutual friends what had happened. Madison's social circle evaporated. The last I heard through the grapevine, she was working retail and barely making rent. Cole kept making his monthly payments like clockwork. He never missed one, probably out of spite. Every payment was a reminder of what she had done. 6 months after everything settled down, I matched with a girl named Sienna on an app. She was a nurse and had her life together. No red flags on her profile. We went for coffee that weekend. She showed up on time, in her scrubs, because she had just gotten off a shift. She apologized for not being dressed up. I told her the scrubs were perfect. It meant she had a real job. We talked for 3 hours. She paid for her own coffee without making it a thing. She just did it. We went out again 2 days later, then again that weekend. Within a month, we were seeing each other regularly. No games, no drama, just 2 adults who liked spending time together. She met Ethan one night at a bar when we were all out. Ethan pulled me aside later and said, "This one seems normal." High praise coming from him after witnessing the Madison disaster. 3 months in, Sienna was staying over at my place most nights. 6 months in, she was practically living there but kept her own apartment. She said she liked having her space. I respected that. No pressure, no joint accounts, just letting things flow. Then Madison decided to reappear. Sienna's phone buzzed during breakfast one morning. She checked it, frowned, and gave me a weird look. "Do you know someone named Madison?" "Yeah, my ex." "What?" "She just messaged me on Instagram." I put my coffee mug down. "What did it say?" Sienna handed me her phone. It was a long message. Madison introduced herself as my fiancée. She claimed I was seeing other people behind her back, that we were still together, that I was playing Sienna. She attached old pictures of us, couple photos, the engagement ring, all carefully crafted to look convincing. Sienna was watching my face. "Is that true?" "No. We broke up over a year ago. She took money from me. I sued her. I got it back. I haven't spoken to her since." "She says you're engaged." "We were." Past tense. She ended that when she took money from our wedding fund and gave it to her ex for a gaming computer. Sienna blinked. "What?" I showed her the screenshots I still had saved, the lawsuit documents, the court judgment, and Cole's payment plan. I laid it all out on the kitchen counter. It took me about 15 minutes to go through the whole timeline. Sienna read everything without saying anything for a while. Then she looked up. "So she's stalking you now?" "It looks like it." "And she found me." "How?" "Probably through tag photos on social media." Sienna was quiet for a minute, processing. "This is a lot. I mean, you have a legitimately difficult ex who contacts the women you date. That's concerning." "I know. I should have warned you this might happen." "Yeah, you probably should have." She wasn't angry, but she wasn't happy either. "How long has she been doing this?" "You're the first person I've dated since her, so this is new." Sienna put her phone on the counter. "I'm going to block her. But I need you to be honest with me. Is there any chance she's going to show up at my apartment or my work? Because I deal with enough stress at the hospital." "I don't think so. She knows I'll file for a restraining order if she escalates this." "You might have to anyway if she keeps this up." Sienna looked at me, serious. "I like you, but I didn't sign up for ex-girlfriend drama. If this becomes a pattern, we need to deal with it." "Agreed. If she contacts you again, we go to the police. I'll file for a restraining order." Sienna nodded and blocked Madison. She went back to her breakfast, but the vibe was different, less relaxed. Over the next week, Madison tried to message Sienna from 2 other accounts. Sienna screenshot each message and showed them to me, growing more frustrated each time. "This is harassment." I knew I had to do something. That Friday, I filed for a restraining order. I had to go through the whole process, documentation, appearing before a judge. The judge granted it after seeing the proof that Madison had contacted Sienna multiple times after being blocked. Sienna seemed relieved when I showed her the order. Good. Maybe she'll back off now. For the most part, she did. A month later, she tried one last message, this time to Sienna's mom on Facebook, trying to stir up trouble. Her mom screenshotted it and sent it to Sienna asking who this person was. Sienna explained, and her mom blocked Madison. We kept dating. The relationship got more serious. We officially moved in together after about 14 months. She gave up her apartment. We got a bigger place with 2 bathrooms because, as she said, sharing one bathroom is where relationships go to die. A smart woman. 2 years after that breakfast where Madison first tried to sabotage us, I took Sienna back to the same cafe where we'd had our first date. She suspected it halfway through the meal when I got weird and quiet. She started smiling before I even pulled out the ring. I asked her to marry me right there at our original table. She said yes before I even finished the question. We set the date for the following fall. A small wedding. Just close family and friends. Everything paid for up front. No joint accounts until after we were married. She insisted on that herself. She said she understood why I was cautious. No drama. The restraining order against Madison expired, but she never contacted us again. I heard through mutual friends that she had moved to another city. New job. Trying to start over. Still paying back her dad. Still dealing with the consequences. Cole finished his payment plan after 2 years. The last payment arrived on time. I never heard from him again. Life moved on. It got better. Not perfect, but better. And that was enough. Comment. I think one of the biggest takeaways here is the strength it takes to choose yourself. Setting firm boundaries isn't about being unkind. It's an act of profound self-respect. True accountability isn't about revenge, but about ensuring that actions have natural consequences. Walking away from something you've invested years in is never easy, but it's in that quiet space afterward where you can truly begin to heal and rebuild. Choosing your own peace over endless drama is one of the most powerful decisions you can make. When you learn to value your own well-being, you start attracting people who value it too. A healthy relationship should feel safe, not like a constant risk. Always remember that you have the power to close a painful chapter and start writing a beautiful new one. I hope you all find the peace you deserve. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.